Hi, I'm Peter Nichols, Life Enjoyment Mentor. My business is enjoyment, my product is purpose. I help people connect with what they enjoy in their lives with what gives them purpose, at work, home and in community life. When you lose yourself in what you do, you enjoy, you find yourself. The real you comes alive. Typically in our early working years we focus on earning the money we need to establish ourselves and our families in life. I believe the second half of life is the richer half. Only when we have reasonably experienced adult life do we start to understand what makes us different as a person, what we are good at and what people value about us. We are ready to find our true north, serving causes that give us satisfaction and answer the question, why are you here? This is one of a series of interviews of people who explored their true potential, have seen the light and made significant and purposeful changes to enjoy a more satisfying life. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Peter Nichols. I'm a life enjoyment mentor. My business is enjoyment. My product is purpose. And this is the third of a series of interviews I'm undertaking on the topic of why the second half of life is the richer half of life. And today I've got a classic example of the person I mean. My good friend of many years now, Lien. Ricky and I go back to when Ricky was in Singapore and we were due to meet at the airport. The only trouble was he was waiting at one terminal, I was trying to find him at the other, so it didn't happen. But nonetheless, we've remained good friends ever since and continuing. And I'd like to introduce Ricky in a slightly different way because the topic is the second half of life is the richer half. Ricky has recently just given a post on LinkedIn, which I think is just worth reading a fair bit of it to you to introduce him. And it goes like this. Entering my elegant 80s in the coming decade, I find myself reflecting on the journey that has been my life. Much like the concentric rings of a tree, each year has added a layer of growth, experience and wisdom. Frank Lloyd Wright said, "The longer I live, the more beautiful life becomes." I resonate deeply with this sentiment, as the passage of time has heightened my appreciation for the beauty in everyday moments. I'm more patient with myself these days, but get impatient with people who want to waste my time. I hold myself to higher standards. Life's journey feels akin to a train ride, with landscapes and scenes unfolding as the years pass, and fade into my memory, yet easily recalled for those significant emotional moments. Each decade brings new vistas, challenges and joys, all contributing to the experience of my existence. As my rainbow arcs well beyond its midpoint, nearing that elusive pot of gold, whatever and wherever that may be, I find myself immense fulfillment, in savouring the insights I've gathered along the way. I relish the opportunity to engage with others, to listen intently, and to nurture a sense of curiosity about their stories and aspirations. As I continue this journey, I remain committed to embracing each moment, cherishing the beauty that life offers, and sharing the wisdom that comes with age. Here's to the adventures that lie ahead, and to the continuous growth that makes life so profoundly beautiful. Ladies and gentlemen, help me welcome to the interview, Ricky Lien. Good to see you, Ricky.
Oh, thank you very much. That sounds like almost me.
Funny that. You wrote it.
Funny that. Yes, well, thank you. I wrote each phrase as I went along, and I saved the memories as I wrote that. So I always believe that emotions are so important in life that sometimes words is the only thing that we can use to describe those feelings. But I also said, I think sometime back, that it's like you and I are sitting in a train and we're saying, for example, we're going through the South Australian countryside and we watch in quiet silence after a chat and watch the sheep and the cows and the trees come and fade away in the distance. Very often I think of life like that. It comes up, it stays for a while, but you know what, Peter? I bet it remains in your and my memory.
Beautifully said. the part which I meant to say too before that really was, it's fascinating that you're not just a business coach and a development coach and all those important corporate coaching, but you've got the art. You use the art of conversation as your focus, the art of strategic conversation, and it seems to me that, I mean, we both know that good marketing is about getting to the emotion more than just saying how good we are and how much we can help. And writings like I've just read out is a classic case of how you get to the emotion of the person and express your own emotions so that people see you not as a hard-nosed business person, but as a person of life who is sharing what you've learned in a beautiful way. Comment on that one, Ricky.
There's a lot there to unpack there, Peter. First
In
of
fact,
all,
go back to where that all came about. Let's get a bit of backstory on it.
well, the backstory was when I was a youngster, like you, when you recall back, I had a number of siblings around me. And two of them especially, they were my favorite siblings, my sister and my younger brother. And I used to play Captain Marvel. Remember the Marvel comics? Captain Marvel. And I had a cape behind me. And at that time, I had a make-believe wooden block, which was a telephone. And I said, it's a telephone without wires.
Yep.
As you and I remember,
yes,
back when we were young ones, there were no mobile phones, were there?
How futuristic of you.
Yes, I had invented Captain Marvel from the future with a telephone that works on the solar waves from the sun.
I love it. Yeah.
And so from that stage, I loved it because I was the senior of my little sibling. And I loved leading and creating stories. And I remember I used to tell my mother all sorts of stories, and she used to gurgle with laughter. I mean, gurgle with laughter, because I would bring her writhing with laughter. I said, you are, she would say, you should be an actor, a comedian. Well, there you go. And that's how it started. I love leading, as now I'm a trainer and a teacher. I love leading groups and teams and one-on-ones towards where they want to go. What is their marvelous journey? So I help them get there. Isn't that a wonderful way to earn my living?
Let's work through that from Captain Marvel to the business coach you are today. There's a journey in there, which now, as I say, I first knew you when you were in Singapore, but you've been to many places and done many things over that. I'd like to try and work through a bit, given the topic is how I think we both agree that it is the richer half of life, but it doesn't happen in that way. It's not just something we learn as a child and work through it. It evolves over life, and I guess I'd like to get a bit of an idea of where things started to change in your life, where you felt, look, did you ever go through a stage where you just went through the finding work and then then have the occasional aha moment and move on? How did it all evolve?
It started off as a businessman. I started off as a businessman. I ran cafes and restaurants, and then I worked for a while with corporate, Peter. And that's when I started to learn the corporate business lingo, strategy, plan, operational excellence, all those buzzwords. But then I found that as I went along, and I went to night school and I did a lot of other certifications in quality and became an ISO 9000 auditor and assessor and systems person, I found what was happening was the systems are good, but it's the people who make the things. So I focused on the people side of quality, Peter. And even though you had quality system, processes, task sheets to be followed, it was always the person doing that. And I found that between Jack and Jill would be able to do a much better job at the same job functions as Jack could do. But Jill was better. But it was always, I found out, the mindset and the attitude and the passion within Jill. And that is the difference. So throughout the years, I began to take note of this as a trainer and a teacher. And of course, prior to that, I had done my certifications. I've taken the Australian certification, for the training assessment, not once, but twice. I've been to America. I've been to Canada. I've learned of the giants of the industry. And it's much like, the leaves of an onion, Peter. I think men and women are like this. We begin to peel off each layer as time goes by. We learned that? Yes. Have we absorbed that? Yes. Can I make someone cry with happiness or desperation? Yes, I can. And then you peel that one off. And as you get closer and closer, as my life arcs, and I find you'll find the same thing as well, that you really get to something that's very, very impactful in life. So how do we bring our passion and spirit into our work? Doesn't have to be work, right? You can see my guitar in the background.
Yeah.
I play that, not like Bon Jovi, but I played Ricky Lien style. It's my style. Not as good as them, but to me, it's good enough. But I put passion into that. Put my little fingers in, pluck those chords, I hum along. And that's the same amount of spirit I put into my work. So through the years, Peter, that's how I've developed and shed. And as we get on into my elegant 80s, this is what I found, that now there's a legacy I want to leave behind. And I'm a lot more patient. I'm a lot more kinder. I'm a lot more collaborative in my speech. And I think we all age like a bottle of red wine, right, Pete? What do you reckon?
Yes, definitely. No, that's right. We age it. Very much so. I agree with that. Let me just then probe that a little bit further. Clearly, you've probably all your life had, or most of your life, adult life, you've had this sense of awareness of people's feelings, and I love your analogy about Jack and Jill. How the Jill would sense the emotions of the person better than Jack would, and Jack would be much more black and white about situations. And that caught your attention fairly early in life, by the sounds of it. And I guess so. What deepened? I mean, you clearly that meant you weren't Ricky Lien as you are today. There was still a young Ricky Lien who was learning, but somehow there was a process whereby certain things happened which may have made you confirm and build on that passion in such a way that it became a useful business. I do remember, just as a sideline, just before we say that, I do remember you telling me that you did a lot of work on stage with shows, etc. Did that bring out? Was that significant in this growth pattern?
Absolutely. I was the licensee of a nightclub up in Brisbane, and I used to marvel at the master of ceremonies every night, Peter, as he brought on the floor shows. And there would say, well, ladies and gentlemen, drum roll, blah, blah, blah. We bring you from the entertainment capital of Australia, which is Melbourne and Sydney, of course, because we're up in Brisbane. Terrific 5-star A shows to the city of Brisbane. And I used to sit there and marvel, how do you do that? How do you make that talk? So I spoke to the band leader, who was the MC, the master of ceremonies, and he taught me. He broke it down. He wrote it out for me. Ladies and gentlemen. And then say, okay, drum roll. No, not too loud, the drum roll. Yeah. And then I got into it, right? So initially I was very scared, right? Like a novice. And I'll be quite robotic. Ladies and gentlemen, bringing you, and the heart's going palpitation. And then when I started to put love into my heart, then week by week, I got very much better. And then I'd have the ladies and gentlemen sitting there in our nightclub, and then I would announce a show. And with great pleasure, we bring you the Lady of Pleasure, Fire, and she will burn you tonight. Bring her on, and as the crescendo builds up, ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for Jeanette Pleasure.
Yeah, that's fascinating. It's you're right. You went through a phase. You had a good understanding already of the power of emotion.
Yes.
But there's the way you actually express the emotion. You learn something there, by the sounds of it.
Yes, and that's how, right? I see people drinking in the nightclub, And they love it when you ignite their emotions.
Mm.
They don't want facts because facts tell and stories and emotions sell.
Mm.
So then when I went into business and I was like the dealer account manager for a very large Japanese electronic and computer firm up in Brisbane, I found that I worked very well in business if I always appealed to the emotions first. Emotion meaning the fear, the anxiety of business, the trepidation of paying their bills to us, the company,
Mm-hmm.
the fear of not training or training their salespeople enough so that they could go out and sell more. These were all the pain points as I studied. And I said to them, Peter, for example, if you were my dealer of my computers,
Mm-hmm.
Peter, the way I want to work with you is I want to train your salespeople so much so that they are just dripping hungry for blood in the morning.
The very
And
words you're
you would say,
giving them do it.
yeah,
Yes.
and correct, Peter. And because you're a businessman, right? You're not a salesman. So that was what I was doing. So, of course, I was selling you the NEC stuff, but at the same time, I was helping your army of sales force get better and better and better as the weeks went by. And they would always remember me, because when I would come and say, "Hi, guys," and they'd be, "Oh, here comes Ricky, our savior, our trainer." And I said, "Oh, blush, blush, you're just great students."
That's very powerful stuff. That, because you're right. We are all, and even the toughest, hard-nosed business person underneath is as soft as butter, but just does a very good. Life has taught them, that particularly the men. We are the strength. We are the strong ones. We have to be seen to be in charge. We have to hide our emotions. And of course, the work ethic had a lot to do with that. As you and I both know that we were told that, when in the stuff I do, enjoyment is a waste of, this is not a place to work. Stress is the badge of honor, and that sort of thing. So, I guess given that, did you find that people in business sort of poo-pooed your approach at first? Or has that evolved, or was that always a successful thing once you started using it?
Always been successful. Peter, I worked in Malaysia. My very first corporate job was working under a boss from hell. He was the arrogant, aggressive, take no prisoners, kick butts type. And he saw how I approached and worked with the sales force. And he said, "Ricky, you're too soft. You're too soft. You can't manage them like that."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I still did it my way. And that was when I was in my mid-20s. I began to realize that I didn't have the theory behind that, but I knew the way of the heart. And so I touched each and every one of them. I said, when you work hard with me, your family's going to be really proud of you. And you and I, put out your diaries, we're going to have dinner with you and your family on 4 weeks' time. You got that? Okay. And their name might be Jimmy. All right, Jimmy, you tell your family we're all going out to a little cafe, not to a fancy restaurant, just to a cafe. We'll all have dinner there. And Peter, when I took Jimmy's family out, I would praise Jimmy in front of the family. And I would say, "Jimmy works very long hours and he's an asset to the company. I think you should be proud of him." And then I would look at Jimmy and say, "Jimmy, what a beautiful family. Keep on working at our company because your salary and your commission goes out to feed and educate your children." That's emotion. That's no hard kicking. But my boss never knew that. And, 6 months, 9 months, a year later, when I turned all the sales results like that, he said, "My God, you're some executive." I said, "Learning from the best, sir. Learning from the best." So I gave him the praise.
Absolutely, yeah.
And you know what, Peter? Before I was even 30 years old, they offered me the job of marketing director in a public listed company. Results are done through emotions, pride, joy, fear, anger, grief, contempt. All of these things are raging inside of us. And of course, during the years in between, up to now, I read a lot of psychology books.
I was going to say there's a lot of psychology in what you're saying and the way you work. I I'm wondering whether that was something you got any training in or simply came naturally to you.
I did a lot of training, and I've read books much like you, Peter.
Mm,
Open up this, and I got just a nudge under 1,000 books here. Kindle books.
absolutely.
Absolutely. And I rip through maybe 2 or 3 books a month.
Mm,
Very quickly, I just rip through and grab the ideas out.
yeah.
So that's why, I keep on peeling back the layers of my onion. Now I'm into strategic conversations, trying to make GTM, go-to-market reps and managers become real impact players. And there's not much separating, the competent ones and the extraordinary ones. There's not much. It's mindset and passion. They all know the same technical amount. But like John and Jim, like Jill and John, right? Who drives it better? The one with a proud emotion inside.
Let's put that in the context of your evolution into second half of life, where the terms I use are how we don't measure we measure age in years, and we measure growth in depth of understanding ourselves, depth of understanding people, as you're demonstrating there, depth of insight, depth of perspective, and depth of wisdom. It's something like I can sense. Would you like to talk a little bit about how those abilities you learned from the time that man taught you how to speak on stage to through into your second half of life, how that's sort of deepened?
You're so right. It doesn't happen overnight. It's funny, we have to soak via osmosis. I'm one of the slow learners in life, Peter. And so even up to the age of 50, I was already pretty good. But from over that, coming into my 60s, 70s, and 80s, I noticed this gray matter up here was on a search for greater wisdom. So I could take something and break it down further and soak it in. So there's a thirst for knowledge, which is much the same as before, but this time, Peter, it's a very much deeper search for knowledge. Because now that you've built up so much practice and you've got so much theory, any bit of extra knowledge comes in, and man, you can get stopped. You can just stop at that, right? Can't you? Sometimes a phrase, right? I might read a phrase from a poet like, tell me, what do you plan? How do you plan to live your one and precious life? Tell me, how do you plan to live your one and precious life? That was a poet. I can't remember her name, one of the lady poets from America. And when I was younger, I would have just read that and gone through. But now I think in our wisdom, we stop and ponder, because ideas are created in words. Words put the ideas in. You can't have an idea unless you write it down. But when we're speaking, we say that, right? How do you plan to live your one wild and precious life? And you sit there and you really think about that. Sometimes I can think about that one sentence in a whole day.
Yep.
Then my life becomes better. As I said, I enjoy every moment. I stop and, the landlord outside is cutting the grass, and I'm sitting here smelling. You know the smell of cut grass, Peter?
Yeah.
And you sit there and you think, poor grass being cut. Or you say, the grass is being freshened up. They'll bloom again into more beautiful blades of green grass. So I can learn now to reframe. So you are so right. It takes time to simmer, to brew. It's like long braised stew.
And what I'm hearing you say there, and which I would strongly agree with, is you're not really conscious of the change, as it happens. It's sort of I love the Steve Jobs comment about you can't look at life, you can't join the dots looking ahead. You can only join the dots looking back. And as such, it's often, in fact, I suppose the way I operate with my stuff too, I get people to focus back on the things they enjoyed in the past and how that's become significant. And they've, so often they've never thought of that as having an impact on who they are now. And I think what I'm hearing from what your experience is one where these things are not even a question of becoming more aware from time to time, except it's almost like a self-aha moment of saying to yourself, I'd never thought of that till now. And you've had your own aha moments all the time. Comment on that, on this sort of flow rather than step by step?
I don't know. Sometimes it's step by step. Sometimes it seems to be a flow, Peter.
Okay.
But whichever way it is, it's not a conscious effort.
Hmm.
It is a conscious effort to improve myself better than yesterday. So I always challenge myself, right? Well, today I can explain a concept that I've studied better than I could yesterday.
Hmm.
Okay, take the word strategic, right? And then take the word conversation. Many years ago, I would have said strategy and conversation. What are you talking about, Peter? They're two separate things, right? A conversation is different.
Mm-hmm.
But now, yeah, a strategic conversation.
Mm-hmm.
It simply means that it's planned so that maybe a spouse can sit there together and say, we're going to have a nice conversation about our future. That's strategic. Rather than say, you always grumble when I cut the grass and make the noise. Which, oops, that wasn't a very strategic one. It's more of a gossipy one.
Mm. Yes, yes.
So I've learned the art of reframe, Peter, through the years. It's been step by step and maybe a flow. Oh, it's raining. People say, oh, dang, it's raining. And then it says it's good for the ducks. It's good for the farms in South Australia.
Yes, we
Oh,
don't.
it's muddy, right? Yes, it's muddy. Yes, of course. It's good for the earthworms. They need to drink too.
Does it? Yeah, it's true.
And so my life now become much better in my second half of my life. I don't complain. No complaints whatsoever. The only complaint is about me, myself. That's it. But there's very few and far between. Because the moment I complain, I said, hey, like Nike, just do it.
Let's just knock a couple of myths, which we both come here. One of the myths is that life is a bell curve, which goes, you get to about 50 and then you're on the downhill slide. Business says you're too old to do things. What's your reaction to that now? How do you see that now?
It depends. I mean, if somebody wants to see themselves as a bell curve, so be it. They're right.
Mm-hmm.
Remember Henry Ford? Whatever you say, whether you're right, you're right. If it's wrong, it's wrong. But I see it, Peter, like you and me, our life going this way, up and up and up, up and beyond, right?
Absolutely.
The jet, right?
Exponential.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, correct. It's exponential. You are so right.
Mm.
So I don't believe in the bell curve. I don't. Other people might believe it. And so you can see them. Older people like us, maybe even people who are maybe even 10 years younger than us. And you see them around the supermarkets with a dead look around their face. They're deep in thought somewhere. You walk around, they bump around, nary a smile, nary a chat. And you're almost afraid to approach them to say hi. You're almost afraid. But you know what? If I say, I want to test this man, I'm just to give it my best sunny sunshine smile. Good morning. And you watch them. They break out. They break out like a rash. Good morning. A moment ago, they were deep in thought somewhere, saying elsewhere, they were somewhere.
Yeah.
And then I've targeted this woman, I'm targeting this man. And because I'm a student of human behavior, I say, just watch what happens. Look, 8 times out of 10, they will smile. 2 times out of 10, they'll say, what do you want? What do you sell?
That's right. Yeah, it does depend, and it can be just something of that day, but it's usually a way they've lived. And you're right. I'm aware that there are times happen where somebody talks to me and say, "You younger people," and turns out I'm older than them in age. And you think it's a mindset. It is that word mindset comes. And I talk about mindset. If you've got it, you have to have a growth mindset in business because to get on. But you're not required to have a growth mindset once you leave full-time work. But it continues to be so important in a life growth mindset, not necessarily a business growth mindset.
Oh, yeah. And remember, I look at business as the business of living. See? I mean, when we live, we do business, right? But there's also the business of living. One way is you go out and you hunt beef and buffalo and whatever it is. That's business to bring back money. But isn't the business of living also amongst a tribe of people around you, with family, next door neighbors, whoever it is that you do? Man, you need to connect with people, right? And if you don't grow in a growth mindset, the brains then start to fossilize. They do. I find some words difficult to pronounce. Yeah. And say, I must be getting old. I said, no, reframe that. I haven't pronounced it enough. And then when I sit down, pen and paper, and I break that word down into its syllables,
Yep.
then it flows. It flows like a river.
Beautiful. Absolutely
Right?
beautiful.
And that's a growth mindset. And I challenge myself. If everybody does that, I don't think they'll look at a bell curve. Look, some people will look at ageism. Oh, you're too old, you're over. That's fine. That's fine. The best employer is yourself.
Actually, then you've just, I wanted you just to, you might just embellish on that a bit, because I was going to put the question to you, what would you tell people in their 30s or so, what ageism, what age after 50 is like, or what, how they should react to ageism, this public perception of ageism. What's the message you would give people, say 30 or 40, as to what ageism really is all about?
You can't stop what the other person thinks of you. If I'm black, I can't stop you thinking of what I am. And I should not be able to I should not want to justify myself to you. No, I'm me. It's fine. I'm not right. In fact, you're not right for me. Can you see that? It comes back again to this mindset, the growth mindset. If you think you are 35 or 40 and you're old, and we're already into our elegant 80s, what's that make of us? We're still a human being. But I reckon, Peter, that you and I would be much wiser, a lot more mature when we come to any type of conflict situation that we would have been across when we were younger and perhaps lost our temper, and now to a more tempered type of language. That's wisdom. That's emotional intelligence. That's maturity. That is emotional control.
Tell me something. You're a Malaysian background. Is that correct?
Yes, I was born in Malaysia. I'm
Malaysia.
of Chinese descent.
That's right. So tell me, there's a lot of Eastern way of looking at things. I always love the Japanese term ikigai, reason for living, which the word retirement doesn't come up. And I did a talk with an Indian group once, and I was talking about life, retirement, and they said to me afterwards, "We don't understand the word retire. We just live our lives, right through." But yet, in the sort of the white sort of society, when I was in the Australian Western society, it's a myth we have to smash still, that says, "Oh, look, once I leave work, I've lost my identity. I'm useless. I don't know what to do." And somehow, what's your advice to people who are approaching, say, they're in their 50s and approaching the prospect of not having full-time work? Yeah.
Well, they could live up until 100, right? They could live well beyond the natural arc. So at 50, when you say retire, the word retire, it simply means that you've retired from this particular position. That's all. It's just a job. But your life goes on. How could you tell your children and your great-grandchildren that you simply say, oh, I've done my job as a father. I've done my 40 years of work. That's it. I'm retiring. Excuse me? What's wrong with you? Make yourself useful. Go help the soup kitchen. Go do a blog. Go teach people your craft that you've learned 40 years in doing that. Go teach some primary school children. Go teach people public speaking. Go teach people the art of being a good entrepreneur. You shouldn't retire until the good Lord takes you. There's no retirement. Life is good.
I love it.
Life is good, Peter. I love life. In Australia, we've got the best life. Politics aside, of course. But the life here is good, right?
we're a very fortunate country. I agree. So
So the
becoming more and
only
more obvious every day, isn't it?
it is, and there's only two words, right? That people lament, "Oh, I'm retiring. I don't know what to do." There's only two words I tell people. Well, stop it, and I just smile. Stop it, meaning stop that sort of thinking, because that's what Zig Ziglar used to call stinking thinking from the neck up.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Stinking thinking. It stinks. That thing stinks, right? Go and help your mother-in-law. Go help your wife more. Do more housework. Do more gardening. Do something. Teach something. That's your legacy. Right? Leave the good. Uncle Peter from there, he used to teach me how to pronounce these words. I remember him. And maybe you and I have already gone. But 30 years from then, I remember I couldn't pronounce that word. And Uncle Ricky showed me how to do that. Or Grandpa Ricky.
Mm-hmm. Actually, you bring up the fact that the days that you and I learned grammar at school, verbs and adverbs and parsing and all those terms, which seem to me to be almost foreign to young people these days, but yet is the critical construction of sentences, which we were once told, well, it's all seemed rather pointless but underlying all you've been saying today, there's a critical structuring of what you say and how you say it and what comes first and even the way you describe a person, the use of adjectives to describe people is just so basic to life.
Peter, the business of life is carried in ideas. I have an idea that perhaps I want to visit you in Adelaide, and, for a couple of days, right? I want to catch up with you. But how do I want to express that you are so happy to have me? So how do I sell that idea to you? See that?
Yeah.
And so that idea has to be couched in words. Peter, and then I take a breath. I think it would be great. I'm planning some holidays coming up, and I got a couple of days down south and going to Melbourne. I thought I might just drop by and rekindle our friendship that goes back almost 30 years, Peter.
Mm.
Hey, what do you reckon, eh? See how gentle that is? And I want to spark something within your mind. That's a good idea, Ricky.
That's right.
Hmm.
Which might bring out I had a similar thought, which I didn't have the same way you put it, but you triggered the same feeling in me as you were expressing the words you used.
Bingo.
Yeah.
And that's strategic.
That's very good.
That's strategic. It is a long-term thing, a vision. I wanted to do something rather than, "G'day, what's the weather like?"
Mm.
Oh, sorry to hear that. A lot of rain, huh? Can't be good for the kids. Yuck. Must be bringing a lot of dirt into the house, eh, Pete? Now, that's just coffee shop talk. That's not strategic, right? Strategy might be, have you ever considered something that you didn't do in life and it's yet to be done, Peter? That's strategic. See that we need to pick the thread of that and take people into their future. And when people say, "Oh, Ricky, I can't, there's a lot of pain." Pain. Well, what would your life be without the pain? Now you take them into the future. That's strategy.
Ricky, we've just about run out of time. I just tell me in your words, what does it mean when we say that the second half of life is the richer half of life? How would you say that?
It's richer in the sense that tenfold, I feel the breeze and skin and I'm more appreciative of life. I pick up my lemon ginger and I sip it and I appreciate the taste. Whereas in my youth, I would just gulp it down because I got phone calls coming through. The boss is screaming. The client is complaining. The second half of life is much richer because now we are masters of our moments. We're masters of our time. We don't have to be told what to do. I'll think about that. See, we have the luxury now. No longer are we apprentices. We're now matured people. We choose our life now. We own our life. This is what I found, Peter. Maybe different from other people. So when you ask me the question, is over 50 the richer part? That's it. Master of my moments. I owe no allegiance to anybody, allegiance to myself, love all the people around me, but I can love them or leave them. It's okay. No attachments. That's part of Ikigai. Don't get so attached. That's part of Buddhism. Don't treasure things so much that you will lament the loss. No, it was passing anyway. I never really owned that person. No, they'll come and they'll go. Let them go. That to me, Pete, is the richer part of life, the second half of life.
Ricky, it's been an absolute treat. I thought of you fairly early when I thought, who would I like to interview on this? But you've absolutely blown me away with the beauty of the way you see life, and how it does involve the richness and beauty of life. You've done it so well. It's been a pleasure talking with you. And I do look forward to perhaps that day where you might be able to pop over. I want to get to Sydney too, so one of us will get there first, and we'll do that. But in the meantime, thank you, Ricky.
Thank you, Peter. Appreciate being on you, and I really, really appreciate the support. Thank you.
It's been lovely. And that's it all for today then, ladies and gentlemen. That's the third of the series on this topic, and there'll be another one coming along in the not-too-distant future. So again, thank you for joining, thank you for sharing, and all the best to you. Thank you, Ricky.
Thank you again, Peter. Bye-bye.
Bye. And that's a wrap. I hope you found this discussion to be of value to you. And until next time, make sure you enjoy being you.